Cool, man. Tony, it's a pleasure to meet you, dude.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited to kick back and shoot the shit, man. Salud.
Yeah. Cheers.
Mm. Quarantine beers?
Quarantine beers, quarantined in my home.
Yeah. Where's your current location?
I'm in Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah, Seattle has been a whole hot mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much just chilling at the house, working on music, Netflix, the whole nine.
I saw a funny meme the other day and it showed someone was like, Netflix, like you've finished Netflix. And someone was like, I can't believe this is possible.
I mean, even I'm running out of. I'm like rewatching stuff I used to watch, like
Yeah.
when it first got posted on Netflix.
Do you think that Tiger King would have been as popular if there was no quarantine right now?
Definitely not.
No, not at
That
all.
show was so dumb. Like, I mean, you don't learn anything from it. You just like it was like watching a circus show for a couple episodes. I mean, it was just wild. It was just
It
wild.
was
I have
wild.
no other way to describe it. It definitely would not have been possible or popular if this wasn't going on.
I have a friend who just put a bumper sticker on his van that said Carol did it.
I mean, if there's anything I do believe, that is the one thing I do believe that she did that shit.
Yeah, for sure. So cool, man. Let's like start off with like music. Let's just like start off like how did I know that you're a label boss, you have a label, you run a label, you're a DJ, you have all these other things. I also know that you're from Panama.
Yeah.
I've also, I have a ton of Late Night Munchies tracks so that I've gotten
Hey.
over the years. So it's been pretty cool to like come full circle and like when
That's
the other
dope.
night when I had Holly on, I've been buying Soulfield tracks forever, and my buddies had brought him out to New Mexico a
Yeah.
couple of times. So it's really cool to like make these connections, whether they're virtual or in real person life. It's nice to like see a face and
Put a
like,
face to the brand.
yeah, face to the brand, man. It's super cool. So how did you get into music? Maybe from a kid, or how did that work out?
So, I guess from when I was a kid, like, I mean, my parents always played music in the house,
Mhm.
mostly like disco, old R&B, old hip hop, some rock, a lot of jazz. But then like, I mean, I listened to a lot of music, but I didn't really get into like wanting to DJ or wanting to like dig for my own stuff till I got into high school. I was like that kid with the iPod at house parties. I was like, all right, like I got the music, and I mean, everyone knew like I was the kid that brought the iPod and brought the music. So that's kind of where it started. Really was like in high school, 2006, 2007. And then I ended up getting a job at this hostel that I ended up loving, Luna's Castle in Panama. And I used to play music for guests upstairs all the time. And there was three bosses, and one of the bosses came in one day and he's like, do you want to DJ downstairs? And I was like, well, like I don't have gear, like I don't really have money for gear. And he's like, well, like save up some money, he gave me some extra jobs just to make some extra money. And I bought this like little Newmark Total Control mixer. It was, I mean, like the size of my hand pretty much.
That's cool.
And he threw me down there on a like not as busy night to let me kind of take over. And that was like the start of like my music DJ career. It was all at that hostel.
That's really cool. So playing for guests who were like staying for X amount of days or months
they
or
would
whatever.
Just, like, during I would always have the morning shift usually, or like the day shift. So they would be like having breakfast or having lunch. And there used to be this website, I don't even remember the name of it now, but there used to be this website you could go on. It was like SoundCloud, but you could go on there, you could type in an artist and it would like populate a whole station for you.
Oh, wow.
And so I would just go on there and I would ask us like, hey, what do you want to listen to? And they would tell me, and I would kind of make a playlist based off what they told me. And we would just jam out all day during my shift.
That is
The
super
guests used to
cool.
love me. They'd be like, yeah, are you going to play music today? What are you going to play? Like, what do you got going on? So, I mean, it was just a fun experience and a fun environment to kind of, I guess, get my feet wet for that.
So how did that turn into electronic music?
So around that time, I mean, when I first got into DJing and stuff, I was doing a lot of open format, Spanish hip hop, old school hip hop, pop music, disco stuff. And I saw Fede Legrand was the first DJ I saw, I mean, like on a live stream. It was like Ultra. And I saw the live stream, or saw the video of him on YouTube, after the fact, and got real interested. And then I like found Carl Cox, Sean Miller, Hector Kudo, a bunch of guys. And I was just like, all right, like I like this sound, like I like the vibe. And I started kind of digging for my own stuff. And all my friends in high school, they were all into electronic music. So like I was like one of the only kids that like listen to all the other stuff kind of religiously while they were listening to electronic music. My friend Philippe was like, you have to listen to this guy. Like, he gave me like some Funk Agenda mixes, some Fetty Legrand mixes. And he's like, you got to listen to these guys. You're going to love it. And he threw some stuff on my iPod when iPods were popular. And I listened to a whole bunch of mixes and then kind of went on my own rabbit hole. And I was like, yeah. And what's crazy is when I first got into it, electro house and big room house was like the thing. So like, that's where I started, was like, and like now I can't even stand that sound. But I mean, that's where I started. It was like, I was listening to a lot of like Chucky when he was doing his like Dirty Dutch stuff. I mean, all those guys that were playing main stage of Ultra at one point. I mean, that's like what I was into at first, until I like kind of deviated and was like, no, like I like this like minimal techno deal. So then I kind of shifted into that as time went on.
That's really cool. So I am probably about the same age. I'm 30 and
yeah, I'm 29.
Okay. Yeah. And about that same time when I was in high school, I graduated high school. For all my old friends out there, they're going to laugh at me. In 2007. So around that same time, I had started like going to raves, and a lot of these same people like Funk Agenda and Carl Cox and these same people I was like discovering around the same time. So it's pretty cool to like relate to someone on that sort of level. Because a lot of my friends like in the scene or in the community were like a lot older. And there was very few people at my school who like went to parties. There was like one girl who went to parties, and she was like a drum and bass head. And that's all she cared about. She like preached it all day and night. And she was very much going to raves, and she would invite me to them all the time. She was like, this isn't drum and bass, but she would always start her night. This isn't drum and bass, but, and then from there, you know, finding other genres. I remember that sort of like Dirty Dutch sound that I also was like not into, but for a while there, I liked big room. It was a thing for a minute.
I was in it. Like, I mean, I was in all that stuff. I don't even know like what captured my, because I mean, I was listening to Carl Cox and Fetty Legrand at that time too, but like that caught my attention. Maybe just because it was popular at the time, and that's what my friends were kind of listening to on a smaller scale. And then I kind of got tired of it. I was like, all right. I mean, I was listening to like Afrojack when he like had a sound, and I mean, there were Martin Garrix when he came out. I mean, all those guys that were playing all the big room stuff, all the sounds that like now when I hear their sets, I'm like, yeah, I don't want any part of this at all.
It's really cool to see all these like these same artists that you're mentioning now, and a lot of them like are sort of making a full circle. I feel like back to a lot of their older sounds and their older
Calvin
brands.
Harris, he started that Love Regenerator alias, and now he's like doing acid house and like warehouse vibe type sounds, which is super dope. I mean, it's I mean, I have a lot of those tracks and they're dope.
My wife and I were just talking the other day about when she first saw Deadmau5 in Detroit, like for Demph. Like, what year did you see Deadmau5, babe? Like 2010-ish, 2009.
Crazy.
And he was playing techno.
What's so crazy about that is I used to work for one of my first jobs in Panama was a club promoter, and one of the first people that we booked was Deadmau5 in 2008, probably. Wow. And I mean, his music has always been great, but he is such an asshole. Like, I mean, it's super hot in Panama, and he was complaining about not having enough fans, and like, because I mean, he brought the mouse head, of course, and he's like, it's so hot, and that's back when he didn't have ventilation in the mouse head. It was like just the mouse head with no holes or anything, minus like the eyes and mouth. So he was just bitching the entire time, like, oh my god, it's so hot, you guys didn't put enough fans up here, and was just being a complete ass. I was like, all right, like relax, we're gonna get the fans. But yeah, we booked him back in 2008. It was 2008.
I've seen his rider, man. It's not short.
No, it is not. No, it is not. It never has been.
No. Oh man, it's interesting to see some of those like industry riders, and I'm like, none of you are going to use half of this stuff.
I feel like a lot of them just do it to see if you're paying attention.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know, like there's no way in hell you're going to play off 6 CDJs.
Yeah, no, you're not. But you want to see if you can get them.
Yeah. That's pretty funny to look back at those older times and to see it going full circle like that. When did you start making music?
So I started making music in 2020. So 2013 is when I started producing. And it was just because I feel like there was like this wave of events of just like, you just had to be a DJ to like kind of get the ball moving and get booked at places. And then like I feel like there was a period of time where like, are you making music? And if you said no, they were like, all right, well, like, thanks for coming, but like now we're looking for like a DJ and a producer.
Yeah.
So like then I felt like at that point I needed to take like the next step, and I had my buddy Nick had Ableton. And I
Uh-huh.
already had gone through the ring of like Logic, Fruity Loops, Reason. I didn't like any of them. I even went through like GarageBand trying to mess with that. I didn't like anything, and I was like at a point where I was like, all right, well maybe producing's not for me. And my buddy Nick was like, come to the house, check out Ableton, like come sit with me and like shadow me like while I am producing music. And I was like, yo, I love this. Like, how can I get my hands on it?
Yeah.
And I kind of just learned Ableton, or I mean, even to this day, still learning Ableton. But I mean, learned Ableton at that time to just get tracks rolling.
So when you first started, were you just using like pre-made sounds, all the MIDI stuff in there, just kind of playing? Like how did you develop a sound that you liked while at the same time like discovering what the program does? Because that's kind of that's my challenge all the time.
It was so hard at first trying to figure out even what I wanted to make, just because I couldn't figure out like, how do I make these sounds? Like in my head, I'm like, yeah, this sounds dope in my head, but then I'm like trying to translate that same sound from my head to the program, and it was not happening. A lot of YouTube, so much YouTube. And my buddy Nick at the time lived pretty close to me, so I would just hop over to his house and be like, hey, like I'm trying to do this, like how? And he was real good on Ableton. It felt like I felt at that time he had mastered it. Which he probably hadn't. Just to me, it was so amazing that he could do stuff that like I didn't know how to do. So I was like, "You're so great at this." So he helped me out a lot of YouTube, and just a lot of just messing around on Ableton, just making loops through MIDI, just being very freely creative, just like not knowing what to do. So just like, let's just do a whole bunch of random stuff and just figure out like, and we'll see like what happens. And then eventually I figured out like, okay, I like making deep house and I like making tech house, and like figured out like kind of how to arrange tracks and using reference tracks. But yeah, it was not easy. I mean, it still isn't easy. I mean, even when I like collab with people and they'll work on their part and I'm watching, it's like, how did you do that? Like, how have I been using Ableton for 6 or 7 years? I'm like, you just did something I've never seen before. So like, and on one hand, it's frustrating because I wish I knew how to do those things. But at the other hand, it's like, well, like, it's cool that I'm still learning like 7 years later. So, and I get to translate that into my production now, like every time I learn something. So it's cool still.
It's awesome when you find something new that your friend teaches you, and then you can really dig deep into that. It still happens all the time with me because I'm still learning. In no way, shape, or form do I like produce music on a professional level. It's more of, discovery levels still currently. I've only been in Ableton probably like deeply only a year now.
Okay.
And before that, I was writing in Logic, and I just didn't feel like Logic had enough tools.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I just feel like it didn't have enough tools, and there's probably people out there, some of my friends who are like, you're bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, but
I don't feel like it does though. Like, I really don't. I feel the same way.
It'd be nice to like, if you could use some of those third-party applications and plugins in both. And I'm sure you could. And I have some nerdy friends that are probably yelling out there. Yeah, probably somehow. In fact, I was reading on a forum one day where some dude had figured out how to like somehow rewire like Ableton and Logic together so that he could use the plugins from Ableton in Logic, but he had to have both programs running. So unless you had like a supercomputer, it wasn't going to like work on, with your RAM. Nowadays with a brand new MacBook, you can do it, but back in the day, like
how people figure that shit out. Like, I don't get it. I
don't
get
know.
it.
I'm very much a hands-on learner. So like computers for me is sometimes difficult because I like to like touch machines and I like see something physically. So like me staring at a screen and like moving my hand is sometimes a little bit, the learning curve is a lot higher for me than it would be for me to like touch a drum machine and like, I like want to put this and route it into Ableton, something like that. So have you had much experience with like hardware stuff or?
So, I mean, right now I have, a Kai keyboard 25 key, and then I have the Roland TR8S, which is nice to have. I mean, I love using the Roland just to have my hand on hardware and be able to use it in Ableton. And then there's this, God, I wish I remember the name of the shop, but there's a like synthesizer shop here in Seattle that that they were doing workshops.
Oh, cool.
That you could go in and kind of just mess around with stuff before you bought it. So I went in there a couple of times and got to do some like testing out on some things like you could even build your own synthesizer while you're in there. So I mean, my plan was to go back to go build my own and bring it home. But then all this happened. So, now we're just at home without the synthesizer. So I mean, I've been able to play with some stuff, but just not in my house.
There's a place like that here in Portland on Mississippi Street, where they have all these synths set up. It's the same sort of situation. And it was like a big deal, I think, when they got the push controller. Like, I think that there's a bunch of like the local guys that were like raging, like super raging. Like, all the modular dudes were like, I hate these people. They got the push controller. But like at the same time, if you're not I feel like if you can't utilize the software and the hardware at the same time, like there's no way to make it all work.
Right.
We're not recording stuff on the tape anymore.
Nope. Those days are long gone.
Who knows? Maybe someone out there is making music and recording it onto an 8-track. God bless you.
You know what? I think I have this guy on my label, Marshall Applewhite. He's from Detroit. I'm pretty sure he still does that. I'm almost positive that he does.
There's some people that will still, the quality is better when you could record it to something like that. I'm sure someone could drop some knowledge on me right now. That's super cool. So like, how often do you find yourself like writing music? Is it every day? Do you find yourself in a creative moment? Or you just,
I mean,
how's it work?
Right now with this quarantine, I'm like every other day. I mean, last week I was working on music almost every day. I mean, my workflow usually is pretty good where I can start and finish in a day, a track, sometimes even two if I'm feeling real froggy. But I mean, before this virus stuff hit, probably a couple times a week. I'm working on an album, so I mean, I've been working on a lot of music, trying to figure out what's going to go on it. And then like with all this free time now, like my friends that also produce are like, let's work on music together. So I have a bunch of stuff that I'm working on with other people that just to keep me busy, just because not much else going on. So,
I think it's a special time right now, honestly. I think after all this situation, there's going to be a lot of really good music just coming out of music. It's going to be coming out. It's going to be interesting one day telling our kids about this time.
Jesus.
we couldn't go outside and we were just eating chips all day.
Yep. We were forced to stay inside, eating a lot of frozen pizza, watching a lot of Netflix, a lot of YouTube rabbit holes, a lot of puzzles being made, a lot of board games being played.
By day, I'm an art teacher. So it's been really hard for me to like not be in my classroom where I have a lot of like computers and I have a teacher controller there.
Are you doing like the virtual? Are you teaching like virtually? Or do you?
We just started virtual, but at the I was trying to teach this morning. I was trying to teach kindergartners. So I tried teaching on a Google meeting kindergartners. I tried to teach them lines. And this was my attempt at trying to teach a bunch of kids who don't know how to mute of lines. One kid's
yelling in the background.
Yeah, one kid's like, my uncle likes purple. Another one's like, my grandma gave me $7. I was like, let's stay on the subject.
Lines.
But nothing replaces being in the classroom with my students and actually being there and like sharing that magic. Or I'm sure that if you have a local friend that you make music with, there's nothing replaces like being next to them.
Right.
You're talking about your friend Nick, where you could just like ask him the question and pass him the mouse and he could like show you.
Right. Exactly.
Very hard. But I'm thankful to still be employed right now.
Right.
I have a lot of friends who are now unemployed and some who can't collect unemployment for, various reasons because they might have had like a second side time job that's like still going and they're still employed, or, maybe their residency status isn't of the most legal right now. So I have a lot of friends like that. It's definitely a rough time, but sharing the music with the kids is super awesome because they're super into DJing. I teach DJing once a week when school's on. And till recently, I had kids with me that have now going on 3 years who have literally been DJing 3 years.
Oh, wow.
It's super cool. We have a XDJ RX2 in the classroom. We have like a Newmark Mix Track Pro connected to a computer. And then I've been teaching the kids like through Ableton Playground to start off with, which is
tight.
If you know Ableton Playground, if you just start off in Ableton Playground and go through the modules, it's all HTML. It's all in the website. So you just like learn what MIDI is and you learn to make patterns and you copy some patterns.
I might even go in there and go check that out. I
highly suggest it for everyone just to brush up. And there's really advanced level stuff. Just type in Ableton Playground and jump into the playground. You could jump into any module and it will have you like one section will be like beat making, and the next will be like melodies, and the next will be like chords, and then by the time you get to like the end module, you could have all these things going just like you would in your DAW. But for kids,
Okay.
it's a really nice way to like not necessarily self-teach, but like giving them something that can be self-led, so I could walk around my room and like give
Oh, and kind
instructions.
of just wander, yeah.
And then we'll take that knowledge that we gain in Ableton Playground, and then we use BandLab in particular, which is a Google-based program.
Okay.
And it's also doubles as like a social media platform. So like think SoundCloud mixed with Ableton if it was like the same thing.
So it's
So
like
like
MySpace.
it's really cool. It's really cool. You could collab with a completely different person, and you
Okay.
could both be in it at the same time, working on it just through your Google account and like writing comments. And it's really cool to see the music that comes out of there, because believe it or not, there's some super high quality tools. It's limited as far as sounds go, but you know, when you're 10 years old, it's this miraculous thing.
It almost sounds like a beginner level of like, or like a novice level of Splice.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And for people out there who are listening who might not know how to get started in writing music, I highly suggest getting a Google account if you don't already have one, going and to BandLab and just messing around. You could write in MIDI. You could export all of your MIDI files out of there and put it into any DAW you want, and vice versa.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. And it's really cool to you just search a keyword. You're like, I want to look up some hip hop tracks, and then all of a sudden all these hip hop tracks come up, and then you could listen to someone's work in progress and ask them questions. And everyone on there is super cool. Sometimes they're of all ages, so people who can't necessarily afford a full on DAW but have internet access, whether it's a phone or a Chromebook, which we use. The reason that we went to that was because I couldn't afford real computers in my room, and I fundraised all this money through my own like DJ events that we would put into my classroom to buy Chromebooks. It was like looking at the cheapest way to get the kids music. And we also didn't have a music teacher. And my boss was like, just go for it. You're the art teacher. I'm
doubling down.
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that sense to like have that freedom. Not a lot of people get to go to work and literally do whatever they want. So some things the kid will be like, I listened to this new song this week and it's really cool. I'm like, what song? And they're, Dance Monkey. I'm like, okay. we listen to Dance Monkey. I'm like, can you recreate it? Do you know how this was written? Like what kind of drums? And like, we'll listen to it. And just aesthetically speaking to like, kids, they're so much more in tune to sound than you really think. And I've had these really deep conversations with these kids about how this music is built. And some kids like, I don't know if that 808 is hard enough. And I'm like, how old are you?
How do you know this?
It's just really cool, man. So you got into DJing, you started writing music, you eventually like started a label, but I wanted to ask your connection between DJing and producing. Did your DJing influence your production as far as like maybe your mathematical sequencing, or vice versa? Do you always have the DJ in mind when you're making something? How does your brain work in that sense?
I guess not always. I mean, not always. I've maybe more recently it has.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of just based off like events that have happened with my music that like now I kind of think of that a little bit more just because like I want the support of other DJs playing my stuff, and I want to make it as easy for them so that they can hear and be like, yeah, I'd play this in my set. But even still, like in my production, I don't really think about it because I figure like because I have a background in top 40 and open format, like if it can be played, like I'll figure out a way to fit it in my set, like in the smoothest way I can think of, or like in the easiest way I can think of. So I'm never, I've made some real weird tracks where like some people would say like, when am I going to play this? Or like, where am I going to play this? And I was talking about Marshall Applewhite earlier. If you listen to his catalog, it is some of the most left field stuff you probably have ever heard, or at least one of the artists that has the most left field stuff. And I played a lot of his tracks in my set. It's just a matter of like how to fit it in there. So I don't really think. I just start making music, like wherever that takes me. By the end of that, by the end of me making that track, like that's where I end up. But I don't ever, I mean, I've had people tell me like, well, like I can't mix this, or like maybe you should do this so that's easier. And I'm like, no, like I don't want to do that. Like I want it to sound like the way I had it in my head, and like that's the way it sounds.
That's good.
So no, not really.
I had someone tell me the other day, I personally thought my track was just way too short. Like it was like 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes long. You know, it was like 120. And I was asking for feedback about like, how do I make this longer? And instead of giving the feedback about like how to make it longer, the guy was like, I really like the track, but maybe, you know, he was talking more about the aesthetics and the elements. He related it more to pop music. He was like, people's attention spans are this little. And I'm coming from this more of like a DJ background, where like I need this chunk at the beginning to mix it in, and he was more coming from this like original producer sort of perspective. And it was really nice to have that perspective, because I personally thought my track was just too short, and I was focusing on trying to sort of lengthen something when I really valued this viewpoint of taking what I already had and trying to make it more eclectic and focus on the sounds I already had,
like, and that were already there. Yep.
And how to bring them out and, you know, isolate them so they're a little bit more prominent. So that was really cool to like get that feedback. And I think that, you know, right now when we're all stuck in our houses, that if we're not utilizing our technology to get feedback from, you know, multiple sources,
True.
I think it would be invaluable. And for some people who are, you know, they know how to, you know, they're in their own thing and they do it well, you know, all the power to them. But I think
I mean, feedback is still important though.
It's very important. And being an art educator and a music educator, for kids, I have to always stop myself and say, like, what would I say to the kids? So I'm always open to feedback, and I feel like being able to take feedback in a positive manner and like let it sit for a couple of days and think about it is a skill that not a lot of people have. Because I don't know how many times someone has sent me something who might be a really prominent producer, and like, what do you think? And I'm sometimes honest.
Give them honest feedback, and they usually don't like it.
Yeah, people don't like honest feedback.
It's so dumb. They ask you to give them feedback, and then they don't like the feedback. It's like, why'd you ask me that? I'm going to give you honest feedback.
And sometimes I'm like, I really like this section. It's really strong here, but I think these drums might not be the right type of drums kit for this particular area of the song or something. You're like, yeah, whatever. Like,
right.
It went off at this party. I'm like, okay.
I don't. Like, why'd you send it to me then? What did you want? You just wanted me to tell you it was cool. Yeah. All right, fine.
At the end of the day, you're the artist, right? Like you get to paint. You get to lead your own boat into the ocean. But I think it's important to be able to take feedback, give feedback in a constructive manner. And I think it's very also important to talk about aesthetics in particular, about giving people like the vocabulary and skills it needs to actually talk about music in a constructive manner. Because I don't know how many times I've sent something to someone and they just be like, oh, it's cool.
Yep.
I'm like, okay.
That's not helpful.
What's cool? Like,
right.
It's dope. I'm like, okay.
Like you need to know, like, it's like, I mean, like for people, I mean, like us or like any other producer or DJ that's looking for feedback, it's like you have to know who to send it to that's going to actually give you feedback. And I'd be like, yeah, that's dope. Or like, yeah, that's cool. That sounds great. Like none of that's helpful at all.
So making music and being a DJ and a producer, you develop this community, this, you know, a community, whether it's online or if it's your community in your city. And it's really nice to utilize those sources. And if we don't utilize those sources, then we think we're doing ourselves a disservice sometimes. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people, their end goal is to have this music, you know, shared across the world and for people to listen to it, whether it's in a club environment, whether it's on the radio, or whether it's, you know, at a house party with your friends or something. So I think that's really important to be able to share with others. You went through DJing, you started, you know, playing open format, this hostel. Did you move to the States with your parents, or are they still in Panama?
So my dad was active duty military, like, okay. I mean, at the time of me growing up, from when I was a kid all the way up till he retired from the military a few years ago. So, I was already out of the house by then. I was already in college by then by the time he retired. From the military at least. So I ended up back in Panama for high school. Then, had my time there with music and all that. Left once I graduated high school, left for a year to LSU. And then ended up going back because Panama has a branch of FSU in Panama where you can then transfer to to the main campus in Tallahassee, which I mean I didn't end up doing anyway, but it gave me an excuse to go back to Panama because that's what I really wanted to do anyway. So I went back and did a semester there, and then it got back into music. So I mean, we moved. I mean, I've lived all up and down the East Coast. I've lived in Panama, Korea. I mean, East Coast predominantly. I mean, Virginia, Florida. My dad's family's from North Carolina, so spent some time there.
And
So
in
I
all
mean,
these places, were you DJing in all these places?
only in Florida.
Okay.
I did for a little bit, and I mean a lot of small parties. Panama, of course, not in Virginia, not anywhere else. And then I didn't really pick up like full-time DJing so I went back to Panama for that semester, and then my dad's last duty station before he retired was Alaska. So, and at that time I was working full-time, trying to go to school, paying rent, and it was just a lot for me and for the wages of Panama at that time. So I was like, all right, let's go back and live with family. So I called my parents up before knowing they were going to Alaska. I was like, all right, guys, this is what's going on. I want to come back home maybe for a year, get it together, and then dip out after that. And they're like, well, we just found out we're going to be stationed in Alaska for our last tour of your dad's retirement. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll be meeting you guys in Alaska then. So I moved to Fairbanks with them, or met them there when they already had moved there. Got some gigs in Fairbanks, which is, it's the smallest city I've probably ever lived in. Okay. You cannot get lost. No matter how many turns or left turns or right turns you take, you will end up at the same spot at some point. You cannot get lost. My big thing when I move somewhere is I'll always drive without GPS and just kind of get lost, explore the city. I couldn't get lost. I remember getting back home just Mom, I tried to get lost and I could not get lost. The only way to get lost was literally to leave the city, which is a one-way road to the other city. So you can't even get lost. You're just driving to the other city. So I got some gigs at the college there, UAF. I met the event coordinator for this pub that they had, and I used to do events for them there. I met a couple people in town and did some events, and then eventually moved to Anchorage where I did more open format until I started the label, and then started kind of being a part of this 3 or 4 way train of people that were the only ones kind of introducing house music in Anchorage at the time. So, it was cool to be part of that too.
That's cool. I have a few friends here in Portland who are originally Native Alaskans and were involved in that community up there, but are drum and bass heads in particular.
Yep, there are a lot of bass heads up there still to this day. They love their bass up there. They love it.
So what inspired you to create a label? What was the process for you? How did you go about you're I'm going to make my own brand? How did that happen?
So the biggest frustration for me, and I've talked about it before with a lot of friends too. Friends that are also producers and have kind of been through the same frustration is you send your demo out, and a lot of the times, I guess I hear back from them more often now, but at that time I would send a demo out and maybe not hear from that label at all, or 6 or 7 weeks later, no, we don't want it. So I got tired of this waiting game of sending a demo out and not getting a response. And I also had a lot of friends in Alaska that made dope music, but didn't know how to get their music out. They didn't know how to get it on Spotify or get it on Beatport or TrackSource or Stompy at the time when that was going. So it was I just was in this situation where I was I could knock 2 birds out with 1 stone and everybody wins. So the premise was okay, I'm going to start a label. Now I have a place to put my own music out. Also, I have a place for all my friends to put their music out. And so, I came up with a name. My friend Jordan, who is a local graphic designer in Alaska, and his girlfriend Jennifer, they came up with some mocks for the logo. And boom, I reached out to a lot of people in that process too, just asking them questions about distribution and how do you do this and what do I need and what's the best way to start and what do I need to get started? So, I got a lot of good feedback from Astronomar. He's from Alaska. He's from Juneau. He's the guy that runs Main Course with Bot. And so he's a good friend or has been a friend of mine for a while. So I reached out to him first. I was like, hey, I'm trying to start a label. What do I need? He's like, all right, you need to have 3 releases. You need to have this. You need to have that. And I was like, all right, let's take notes to get this shit right. And then started a label 2015.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So You had to learn all these like business analytics like on the
Yeah.
fly.
Yep. A lot of research on Google, I mean, I had Astronomar, who was one good friend, Marshall, who runs his label in Detroit. Um, Maybe one or two other people that I reached out to besides just Googling a lot of stuff and watching a lot of YouTube videos, trying to find whatever information I could and asking whoever I could that was willing to give me the information. A lot of what I learned in that time too was like, I don't understand why people don't share the knowledge that they have.
Yeah.
If you started a label, like help out someone, but I mean, I met a lot of people in that time that were like, either didn't want to tell me or like in a very roundabout way would give me this very great area answer where I was like, I don't know what that means. I'm trying to start a label. Like I need like direct answers. I have no idea what this process is. So learning to get a business license, LLCs and like all this stuff. I was just like, all right, I'll just figure this out. It'll be a, process, trial and error. And I mean, there's been a lot of stuff I've done that was real dumb.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff that I've done, I was like, all right, like that turned out really cool. So mostly through trial and error.
If you could go back and tell yourself with all the knowledge you know now as running your label for as long as you have now, like what could you tell your younger self like to give him some pointers?
I for sure would have saved myself so I've been running the label for 5 years. I would have saved myself at least 3 years of hardship of trying to figure out a lot. I mean, a lot of stuff that I've learned, between even like last year and this year to date, like, I mean, I wish I would have known that then. So just, I mean, patience for sure. I learned in this process kind of who really is on your team when you're trying to get things rolling. Cause I mean, at that time I had reached out to a ton of people trying to get demos. And before that, when they knew the idea was coming, like, oh yeah, like we'll send you music. That's such a dope idea. And then when the time came, I was like, all right, like I need music. They were like, yeah, don't have it. Or they were giving me throwaway tracks is what I call them, where they're like halfway decent tracks, but like I know what they produce. So I'm like, I know that like you make doper music than this. And like, you're giving me the track that no one else wanted that you like shopped around. So like now I get it. So I kind of just learned like who I could have on my team. And I mean, two of my really close friends, Chris and Grant, DJ Gray and Mind Group that I met in Alaska, they've been like my two, like, those are my guys. Like when I need feedback, they give me honest feedback. If I'm going to do a new event, if I'm going to do a new brand, like I run everything kind of through them. Like, hey, what do you guys think? How does it look? Trash, good? Like they give me very honest feedback and I love it because it's helped in this process. And those are like my two guys, even for my music. I'm like, listen to my music. What do you guys think? I mean, they'll tell me like, this is trash. Like you make better stuff than this. So like, this is trash. So, I mean, having good people on your team, and I wish I would have known that then when I was kind of dealing with a whole bunch of people, when like really like two of them had my best interests. But yeah, I would have saved myself a lot of time knowing a lot of the stuff that I know now for sure. But that's okay. It's a process and everyone has to listen, right?
So being an artist pre Late Night Munchies, how has that changed your way of dealing with like producers who now send you tracks and who are hitting you up?
It's interesting is the word I'll use.
Okay.
And what's crazy is, so I mean, getting demos, I got my fair share at the beginning, and then I found this website, Label Base, that you register your label, and kind of through their channel, you can get demos sent, but they kind of push your label, and people kind of people learn about your label a lot faster than you would trying to promote through Facebook or, any other platform sometimes. So, I mean, one thing that I try to do is give feedback, whether it's good or bad. If I'm not going to sign a track, I try to reply back and say, we're not signing it. I mean, just knowing that you're not in limbo was so important for me. And I felt like I was always in limbo when I was shopping my demos around, like, well, and like at that, I mean, even now the rule of thumb is like, don't send your demo out to 50 labels. But like, I felt like I had to, because I knew that 45 of them probably weren't going to answer back. So it was like, well, like instead of sitting in limbo, like everyone will get my demo. But then like, they were like, well, that's bad, because now everyone's seeing the play count and everyone knows that you sent it out to. So you kind of go through this circus of trying to figure out like how to do it. But giving feedback, responding to emails promptly. I mean, it doesn't take that. And I understand some labels that are much bigger than mine get probably hundreds of demos, but it's like, take the time to respond to these guys that are putting so much effort into their own craft. So that at least they know that they can shop it somewhere else, that you're interested, whatever the case is. But it's definitely been interesting kind of running. And and I do it by myself. So
Mhm.
just like getting the demos, doing the A&R work, doing the contracts, artwork is the only thing I outsource.
Mhm.
But everything else, I do the mastering, I do everything else. So
That's
it's
great.
it's been interesting. It's dope. Because I have a pet peeve of like waiting on things from people.
Mhm.
So I was always waiting on masters, always waiting on artwork, and now I have a really good relationship with the artist I have now, who gives me pretty much a concept for the year, and I can do the edits on it for the rest of the year until 2021 when I need a new concept, and everything else I can handle myself. So like if something doesn't happen, I know I was the only one that could control that.
How did you learn mastering? Because that's an art in itself.
A lot of YouTube. a lot of YouTube. I fell in love with ozone isotope,
Mhm.
and so I
Which they
got
just offered for free 8 like not too long ago.
yeah. So I got 8. I just got 9.
Mhm.
I just got 9. So I mean, with the new MacBook I just got 9.
Nice.
But I don't use 9. I use 6. I have a bunch of presets from different masters I've done for the label that, I mean, too loud, too not loud enough, not enough bass, not enough this. So, I mean, I have presets that I can just kind of, think I have like 4 or 5 where I can just sift through for a demo or for
Mhm.
a pre-master and just, figure out which one needs to go for that and then kind of make the edits. But a lot of YouTube, a lot of trial and error, a lot of like sending them out to people.
Uh-huh.
I was pretty lucky at the time that I was doing a lot of open format gigs. I had a good relationship with the club I played at with my 2 friends, a place called Coots. And sometimes I would go early and I could use their club system to test out tracks. So I would master stuff and then go over there and pretty much listen to it to see what it
Yeah.
sounded like. And
Give it
if
a
it was
test
too
ride.
distorted, yeah, not loud enough. I mean, then I learned to do the car test when I heard people joking. I was like, what's this car test? And they're like, oh, just play your track in the car, listen for these things. I was like, all right. So like was doing a lot of car tests, listening on my phone, listening with headphones. And I used to produce just in headphones before I even got monitors. So then I was kind of forced to do all these tests because I mean, in your
Yeah.
headphones it sounds way different than when you're, when you're playing them out. So yeah, a lot of trial and error and a lot of YouTube. And then like a lot of friends I have a few friends that use isotopes. I'm like, hey, like what are your kind of tips on things that you do when you're mastering a track that's too loud or that's not
Mhm.
loud enough? And I mean, with some help too. I mean, nothing has been done without some help. So the process has been dope,
Mhm.
but very much a learning curve.
That's awesome that you're able to do all that on your own, because I know a lot of people who won't even touch mastering. Like, that's not my realm. That's nothing that I want to deal with. But it shows that you're how hungry you are to be able to just go out there and just do some research and essentially sort of teach yourself. Man, that's
Absolutely,
really
yeah. Yeah.
that's amazing. That's true artistry right there. Whether it's.
Just stuff that I want to learn, not even for like myself. I have friends that like don't want to touch it and
Mhm.
they'll reach out to me like, hey, can you master this mix for me? It's like it's cool that I have the knowledge that I can be like, all right, like yeah, I can help you with that mix because like I know how. I master my own mixes. I master the tracks for the label. So I try to, even with the knowledge I've gained, like help out others if they if they want to reach out, if they have reached out.
So if you could give producers who do not know many mastering techniques some tips and tricks before they send it to someone who is mastering, what kind of tips and tricks off the top of your head could you give those producers?
If you're not gonna master your own stuff, get someone to do it. I've gotten some demos that are dope, but they're pre-masters. So, and not that I wouldn't sign them still, it's just like a kind of a turn off, for like
Okay.
lack of a better phrase, of like just getting a demo that's pre-mastered. I can't test it.
Yeah.
So like if I want to download it, like if I have a gig that night and I want to download it to test it out to see like if I want to even sign this, like now I can't. If
Yeah.
I don't have the time to do the mastering for you, which I shouldn't have to do, then like you kind of just
Mhm.
missed out on maybe your track getting signed from me or from any other label that, I mean, there's demos that I send out that you see right away. They'll download. They won't even listen to it. They'll just download it.
Mhm.
They'll play it out. And if it hits, it hits. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But if it's not mastered, they're probably not even going to give you the light of day. So definitely, if you have a friend that masters, if you know someone that you can pay to master it, get it mastered. There's even I think it's Lander, where
Mhm.
you can pay it like a small fee and they'll do like kind of like an automated or automatic master for you. Even do that. That's better than not having it mastered at all.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have Isotope has a lot of presets. So even if you don't know how to master, you can run through the presets and kind of figure it out almost on yourself on a very basic level. I mean, will it be the best mastering? No, but again, like
Yeah.
mastered better than not. And that's what I used when I first started on Isotope, is just the presets until I started creating my own presets that I
Mm-hmm.
save for myself,
Mm-hmm.
not to have to do this all, every single time. But yeah, use the presets,
That's dope.
use a friend, now we live in a world like 2020. It's on the internet now. You probably don't even need a
Yeah,
friend.
look, we wouldn't have been able to do this,
Right. So like now we can do this. Like you can go online, you can search for mastering, and you can find, a handful of websites that'll, for a fee will run your track through and master it. So there's a way.
That's
So
really cool.
and that's why when I see a pre-master, I'm just like, you were being lazy, because like there's no excuse for you not to have this mastered.
That's huge, man. I'm sure there's a lot of my friends out there right now listening who are like, they're taking this and be like, oh, like maybe that's why.
Yeah, and really the biggest part is like, if I'm gonna test it, like I can't, because it's a difference if like I'm chilling at the house and you send me a pre-master, like maybe I'll run it through Isotope myself just to hear what it's gonna sound like and give you the benefit of the doubt, like you forgot or like whatever, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm playing that night and I want to test it, like I'm probably not even going back to that email after the fact. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
over and done like with that email at that point.
I've personally seen a system get blown out in the woods, in particular, but seen a system get blown off of unmastered track.
Yep.
And the DJ had absolutely no clue what had happened, and the sound guy ran up to me. He's like, "What kind of track are you playing?" He's like, "I just made this," and like the monitors sound fine, but you walk out to the crowd and it was just like crack, crack,
yeah,
crack. And like
a whole bunch of distortion. Yeah.
I think there was like 4 drivers had been blown on these speakers. Like 4 at the same time. You just pop, 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 pop.
This is the importance. Hope you guys are listening. Master your tracks.
10,000. You could literally just destroy an entire club sound system.
Right. Like $10 or $10,000. What do you want to pay?
Think about being a club owner, right? And
right.
Thinking about how much trust you have to give your DJs that are playing. Yep. Really, like it's a big job. Right. If you're playing on this huge, immaculate system, I played on some huge systems before, and man, thank God they trusted me, because if I didn't have the knowledge to play everything that's clean, you could easily destroy. Destroy. So that's really cool to get that feedback. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like really take that and run with it, hopefully, because even me myself, I didn't know a lot of this. So this is great help even for myself, for when I start to send demos to people eventually. The kind of music I make isn't necessarily always dance music. So it's very interesting for myself to be like, house head and techno head and play that music out, but the kind of music that I find myself making is not always the music I play out.
Like I have a lot of friends that are like that too, that like are big in a certain genre, but make the opposite or maybe like the lateral of that genre. And just which is fine. It's just like interesting to see like, how does your brain, because mine translates so easily from like, I listen to it all the time to like, I'm going to make it. If someone was like, let's make a drum and bass track, I'd be like, where do I start? Even though like I'm very proficient on Ableton, like I'd be like, I need like a reference track and like 2 weeks to like get the skeleton down for a track like that. So
absolutely,
it's really interesting.
I have a friend who he uses a lot. He's got a lot of different genres that he makes, but he's got a lot of like presets to like, not presets, but he started to make those skeletons. And when he makes that genre again, he'll use that same exact, like he'll just go into that same track and use the same sort of bones.
That's smart.
And he's got like 6 or 7 different sort of like pre-made sort of like templates that he uses and that's how he's been shooting out tunes so fast. Cause I'm like, man, how are you releasing like a tune every 2 weeks? And like, just like, oh my God.
Yeah, that template's helping.
Ooh, that's great though, if it works for you, right?
Absolutely.
And even in modern day times, even people that are putting out tracks on multiple labels or even prominent labels, it's hard. I see it. I see other people who are putting out a lot of music. It's hard for them to make it even financially. I think most DJs and most producers, they have to have a day job to supplement their job to supplement your job.
Yep. 1000%.
Not many people have, I'm very lucky in the sense that I could literally go to work and make music at work, like, and call it work. I'm lucky in that sense. Not a lot of people could, be at the car dealership and trying to sell used cars and making tracks. They're going to be fired.
Yep.
So, not a lot of people have that creative freedom, and I'm very blessed to have that creative freedom. And I really miss work right now. And it's really mentally hard on me to like not be there. Because at work is where I come up with a lot of my ideas and a lot of my drive.
Yep.
So,
just a different space to be able to have that energy. Yeah.
For sure. I'm, stuck in the house, and, thank God I have my wife and my baby here to keep me company. But I definitely miss that social interaction, just like we're having right now. So this is like, I'm very thankful just to be able to do this.
Absolutely.
And gaining some knowledge, and hopefully you're able to, get some socialization on the internet.
Oh, yes.
Whether it's with me or other people.
It's the closest thing to like human interaction.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Tomorrow I'm playing a radio show for these people called Local Heroes here.
Okay.
That I'm gonna be like, I have all this set up behind me and this like pro club setup or whatever, but like I'm gonna go put the RX2 in my backyard under this like white tent and like try and like shine some lights, just do something different creatively, just like for myself, just so I could like feel like I'm going somewhere.
I like those stands for the CDJs. Those are nice.
Oh, these are rigged.
Are they really?
So this is a whole IKEA rig. This table is like a horse table, and then this stand, like this wooden stand here, it's all IKEA, and then the cases, they're just cases, and then I have like these like rubber feet on the back of the CDJs just to like prop them up.
Nice.
Yeah. I was stuck here I was either playing all records or just CDJs. I had to like interchange them, and it was a pain in the ass to like store all this stuff in my closet. And then on top of that, before all this started, I did 4 monthly events on the regular. So I was constantly packing and unpacking gear. And I'm honestly kind of thankful right now that it's just kind of slowed down because my back feels better. I had 4 monthly events, and it was starting to take like a mental toll. Despite how much I love it, right? It's crazy how much,
a lot.
I wasn't getting, tons of money or anything. I'm still losing a little bit of money a month from our regular events, but most of the stuff that I do is free. So that way people in the community don't have to pay to go somewhere to hear the music that they love. And not a lot of people have that opportunity to actually get away with that. Some people, if they're doing an event, like they have to make money, or else it's not, like they won't do it. But luckily I'm in a special place that I have a day job. So we're able to host free events and or benefit shows that benefit the kids. And speaking of, shout out Tourmaline, Diane, who man, she's a
homie.
Yeah, she played a lot in Seattle, right?
Yeah. So I brought her up twice now.
Good people, man.
Yeah, it's twice. So I brought her up, I think it was 2 years ago. I brought her up for this event called Bounce Brunch that my friend Trinity hosts. It's like a day party where they have like breakfast, and she was doing it at different venues before. So I brought her up for one of those for like a Late Night Munchies showcase. And then last year I'm pretty sure it was last year, I brought her up for a summer party at Monkey Loft on the deck that we played back to back together.
Nice.
But I love that girl. She's dope.
She's super great, man.
She's a super homie.
She's super dope. And then you also have another friend of mine on your label, Dan, TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Super funny guy.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, super funny guy.
Super talented dude.
I got connected with him through somebody else. So I can't even remember his real name now, but Yacht Club.
Oh, Adam,
yeah. So
Adam,
like through him and someone else, like then he sent me a demo for a compilation I think I was putting together, and then he did an EP on the label right before that. He's a great producer, funny ass dude. All
these people you're mentioning are super good friends of mine. And it's super cool to like make these connections and like friends of friends.
And it's crazy too because because of via the label, I've been able to make all these connections with like all these guys. And now I've seen a few of them. They came up for a show in Seattle a while back. The one we played one together actually. We did a silent disco. I'm pretty sure that was last year. Nice. All of us together at this place called the Orient Express. So that was a lot of fun, and we got to all meet in person for the first time. So that was cool.
That's awesome. How I met Dan, before I even knew like he was a music producer or he's like an internet celebrity and
right.
Local. and like a local radio talk. He
Right.
hosts a radio show. In fact, he was going live on the Live 95.5 Instagram yesterday or the day before. Just he's hilarious. I love watching this dude, man. But I was playing at this club that it's got a lot of history. It's now closed down, but it's the Paris Theater here in town. And most people, Portlanders, know the Paris Theater is like what used to be a sex club.
Okay.
It used to be a sex club, and people used to like go in the dark and like do their business to like watch a movie or something. So there's all these hilarious jokes. But about 2 or 3 years ago, they reopened it as like a dance club and a show club where they'd have, bands and electronic music shows. But I got booked to play a night. God, I don't even remember what the night was. And I'm just like up there jamming. All of a sudden, Dan is on the stage next to me with like a drink in his hand, like fist pumping for the crowd, like being my hype man. I had
Sounds about right.
No clue where he came from, and he was just like, and ever since then, we've been really good friends, man. Shout out to Dan, super good dude, man. I hope to have him on the show. I really hope to have him on the show soon.
That would be a hilarious episode.
I hope so.
So funny. That'd be so funny.
It takes a lot to have that much energy, and God bless the guy for just having so much energy and love in his soul. Shout out Adam too, who's also another really good producer. Absolutely. He put out a bootleg track. What's that hip hop track?
I feel like that was a little bit ago. Right?
It was. Fuck. What was the?
Sorry, Adam. We don't remember.
We don't remember your bootleg, Adam.
We don't remember.
But it was a super fire bootleg, and I played it a couple times, and it went off every time. Super fire.
He's
bootleg.
A great producer. He's a great producer.
When they play together as was it
the boat show?
Boat club or yacht show? I don't know.
They did a remix. They did a remix for the label for me not too long ago. A couple of releases ago.
They for a long time they played together like nonstop. Like if one was gonna play, like it didn't matter if he was on the lineup or not. Like the other one would be
the other one would play. Yep. I would see pictures and I'm like, I don't remember seeing like one of them on the lineup. Like how did he end up behind the decks playing?
No, when you have a homie like that, it's cool to be able to share the love. And Diane has she's come to our barbecues at the house, and her and my wife.
I just saw her a couple of weeks ago. I was in Portland before this coronavirus thing happened. I was in Portland for a basketball game, actually.
Yeah, her and her husband Alex are just really good people, and I
love them. I love them. So Alex was my photographer at all my events in Alaska. The dopest photographer.
See, this is coming full circle.
I just messaged him on Instagram. I just tagged him in Instagram on one of my old pictures that he had taken up front of him. I was like, "Yo, you got to take pictures soon because he used to take the dopest pictures for all the events."
Dude, shout out to the corgi lovers in the world.
Love them. Diane, and so she was like, when I was in Alaska and like starting the label, so Alaska's not big on house, and there was only 2 other people at the time, Mike Mason, who runs 80K events, and then my buddy Ray and my other buddy Helen, who runs Showdown, and they are more like an open, they do hip hop, they do rock, they do EDM, they do everything. So like no one was just doing house. And Diane was one of the first people I met that was like super down, dope ass DJ. And I was like, yo, I gotta meet this girl. Like I gotta talk to this girl.
This is when you were in Alaska?
Yeah, this is when I was in Alaska. So I got to meet her. She played a lot of my events. If you go back to the flyer, she's on damn near like half of them, if not more. Awesome. We played a lot of back-to-back sets together. She played like all like my bigger parties in Alaska. She played all those. We collabed on a release together on the label. I released one of her like bootlegs that she put out like 2 or 3 years ago. I love that girl. She's the shit.
She played one of our. So speaking of the kids, we had B-Side is our production crew that my wife and I run.
Okay.
In our sort of brand, which is like an ode to like the B-side of the record. It's like an ode to the dig is what that's behind.
Tight.
We threw a couple of benefit shows at the White Owl Social Club last year, day parties, and she played one of our parties and she just murdered it.
Yeah.
Just murdered it.
I can only imagine. She rocks it every single time.
A super solid DJ. I remember when she got on, the dance floor got going, and I was just like, it's time.
She's got such a unique taste in music. And I mean, I guess it's so hard to describe it, but I mean, I realized it when I played with her last year on the deck back to back. Like I was playing like some tech house and some deep house, and she had a way of like playing tracks that like just fit so perfectly, but like were not of that genre. Like it was not tech
they're
house.
a little more
Like,
eclectic, right?
Yeah, it was like some other stuff, but it was like such a vibe. Like she had created. I mean, it was so dope.
She's got deep crates, man. She's got deep crates.
She does. She does. I thought I did, but she definitely has deeper crates than I do.
That's cool. So we've talked about you, coming up as a DJ and like, DJing in this hostel and like graduating to producing and running a label. What things outside of music are you interested in? Do you have any hobbies or special talents?
So I played basketball throughout my entire, let's see, I started in third grade. I started in third grade. Okay. All the way through high school. Played some basketball in college. On an intramural level. Nothing professional. But I played all through high school. So I love basketball. I'm a big basketball and football fan. Basketball for sure. Uh-huh. Basketball season's on. Like, do not even talk to me. Like, I'm watching every single game. I'm watching games that no one wants to watch. Games that everyone wants to watch. Yeah. So I'm a big basketball fan. Obviously I love music. I love my next thing that I'm like wanting to learn or trying to learn is animation. Cool. I want to learn animation I was just talking, I bet you know who he is, Jason Burns. Yeah. Yeah, so he has a release on the label, and he did like an animation for one of the releases with like watermelons falling from like it was really cool, and I've seen all his other stuff on his Instagram page. So I hit him up the other day, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna get into animation. Like, what do I need to do? Like, how can I learn? What do I need to do? So that's like the other hobby I'm like picking up. Coding, I've been teaching myself on and off when I'm super bored. Cool. I would like to kind of build my own website at some point and kind of be the one that controls the behind the scenes aspect. So I decided coding would probably be the next best thing. So I took a couple workshops right before the virus started and was doing a boot camp online through Hack Reactor that I started. So, that's been hard, but interesting. I also love to cook. So Sweet. Cooking is like my other thing. I love being in the kitchen. I love cooking. Got that from my mom. My mom loved cooking. So I would usually, when I was a kid, I would be in the kitchen with her, just annoying as hell, just standing right next to her hip, like, yo, what are you doing next? What's that? What are you putting in there? What's that? That's awesome. So I love cooking. Like cooking and music and basketball are like my three like woosah like hobbies. When I need to like just relax or like calm down, like those are the things I kind of turn to just kind of vibe out in my own space. That's super awesome. I've been trying to cook a lot now that I've been home. Breakfast is nothing but time now. Yeah, but at the same time, I worry like if going to the grocery going to the grocery store before all this was not scary, right? Right. Now I went to the store the other day. People are like open air coughing and not giving each other space, and I'm just like, ah. One of my friends just posted saying she had to tell like some lady that was up like next to her to like back up, and the lady got offended. It's like, do you not know what's happening right now? Like, back up. Oh man, I just today put in my first online order for pickup. So I'm gonna next Thursday I'm gonna like roll up to the Fred Meyer and like call the number, and then they come out and with all your stuff. So much more convenient. So I'm going to try that. So I'm not in the store. Right. My wife has like really bad asthma and, so you have to be extra careful. Yeah. And I have an infant daughter who's not even had her first round of shots yet. So I just got to be really, really careful. Yep. So, it's a crazy time right now. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. I'm really thankful that I have like, my computer, first of all, to make music and just, all my records, all the gear. Yep. Just to go out and a yard. I'm very blessed. I have a home. I own a home here in Portland. So not a lot of people have like a space and like just a yard, before we were homeowners. You live in an apartment? Maybe you could. I'm fortunate enough. I live in a duplex. Okay. And so like I have one neighbor next to me, and my unit is on top of the garage, which is super dope. And we have a big ass backyard. That's cool. Yeah. So it's dope. I love it.
So you could bang the
walk
music
to the store. Yeah, I can bang music. I just did a live stream, a 9-hour live stream yesterday to raise money for some of the venues in Seattle.
Cool.
So I started a live stream at noon and went all the way till 9 o'clock. Had my microphone talking to people on Twitch and stuff. So I mean, yeah, I can bang it out here. It's fun.
That's cool. It's been really interesting because I'm not a mic person, but like having a live stream, sometimes you just like, give your homie a shout out, which is, being a dance music DJ, most people just like a mic is usually a no-no.
Right.
And unless you're in the drum and bass crowd, which is like another whole cultural aspect. John Hawley and I were talking about that the other night. He was like, well, unless you're drum and bass. And I was like, yeah, but sometimes I got to tell my drum and bass homies like no mic allowed.
Right.
There's one show that I got the mic. I feel really bad, but like I told the dude, he was like really intoxicated, the MC, who like came up in the middle of my set and like just started rapping, and I was like just trying to be really respectful. I'm like, okay, like I'll give him a minute. And then he started like rapping over my mix, and I couldn't hear myself mixing.
It's like, all right, time to take this mic away.
So I just clicked off. And then he's like, oh, what happened? And he like reaches over me while I'm I'm in the mix, and he turns it back on. And I was like, okay, he doesn't get the hint.
How oblivious do you have to be of yourself to not understand that you're not needed in this moment?
You know what? If they stop selling alcohol, I'm okay with this for a while. I think I'm okay with this for a while, even though myself, I'm going to run out of beers eventually. But
me too, but that's okay. We could all use the cleanse after all this time of being home and drinking.
Yeah. Even pot, I've been smoking for a really long time, and this is the longest stint that I've gone without it, with almost 3 months now, which is some of my friends were like, what's wrong with you? Like, is something wrong? Like, do I need to call somebody? I'm like, no, like it just, my priorities are just elsewhere right now with my daughter. Right. So I didn't think that was going to happen how it did, or like I stopped. Originally I got sick and around New Year's, and I was sick for like 6 weeks with this super dry cough. Scary times, right? Like,
right. It's like, yo, what you got?
I don't know, but I hope that you're being healthy over there. Salud, man. I appreciate you talking to me.
Trying to be healthy. Not really leaving my house unless I really need to.
Yeah.
And if I do, it's just for walks around here. But not even trying to do that as much. Trying to stay away from people in general.
Yeah, we were doing walks, but we stopped. We're just doing the yard now. In fact, I got to get my garden going this week. I got everything germinating. So
yeah, we go like around the neighborhood around here, but like even we went the other day and like she's got her, like my girlfriend's got her bike and I have my rollerblades, so we went out to the park and we were just cruising. Then like I look around, it's like, yo, like there's so many people out. Like what don't you guys understand? Like, and I mean, like not even out like walking, like enjoying the weather and just like being like they're like in groups, like having a picnic or like playing soccer. I'm just like, guys, like there's too many of you, like. This is not okay.
I just had a conversation with my sister. I think she might be mad at me today, but she had her kids over at her husband or whatever's family's house, and I was just like, well, maybe it's not a good idea to take the kids over. She was like really upset at me for even suggesting that, and I was like,
you don't know.
Yeah, but I love my sister. If you're watching, Cass, I love you to death, but it's only for her own well-being and well-being of
looking out for your safety.
Yeah, and well-being of my parents too, who they want to take the kids over there, and maybe it's not the best idea right now. Right. And shout out to all my conspiracy theory friends too, with the tinfoil hats. I love you guys too.
I just saw all that stuff today, and I was just like, what is happening?
I have. What's the craziest story you've heard? I don't know. Do you have any good conspiracy?
I don't have any yet because I just learned it. Like I just saw this stuff pop up today, like on my timeline. It's like, like, what are people talking about? What is happening? Like, are we this bored? What's going on?
I saw a Daily Mail link that Trump had mentioned in his his address that he was going to pardon Joe Exotic, and I was like, I'm done with the internet for the day. I'm done. Done.
That's it. Everything's getting shut down.
Shut it all down. Free Joe Exotic. We're fucked. Let the tigers out.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, hopefully you're safe, man. It's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can keep up this connection, and next time we won't be on record.
Some off the record.
Yeah, off the record. In fact, stay on this call. We'll do some off the record after this for a second.
Yeah.
Well, officially for our recording session, I appreciate you. Anything else that you want to, let our viewers know
What do we got
before?
going on? I'll give a shout out to my buddy Tyler, who so I just had a release on his compilation.
Dope.
It was 2 weeks ago, I guess it came out, or maybe even a week ago. I don't know. I'm losing track of days and time at this
Yeah.
point. But at some point in the last 2 weeks, I had a release on his comp. A couple of artists that are on there. My buddy Andrew Fosif, but Tyler runs his label Groovy Bone.
Okay.
And today it hit #1 on Beatport. So congrats to him and his label. He's like me in the sense of like we both started a label kind of in a place that doesn't have a lot going on. I mean, South Carolina, I believe he's in South Carolina, has some things going on, but not a lot. So he's taken his small label and turned it into what it is now. I've had a few releases on his label, and he's got a lot of dope releases, and now a #1 release on his resume for his label, which is super dope. So shout out to him.
Shout out.
Grateful to be a part of it. And super.
So it's one more thing before we go. Let's go share your links. I'm gonna do a quick screen share with you. I have all your links pulled up here.
Sweet.
So let's go.
Look at that. There's me on Twitter. If you want to see funny tweets from me, look, there's the guy from that animated movie. I love animated movies too. So if anyone has good animated movies, send me a tweet.
Yeah.
Tell me. I love animated movies so much. I'll watch them over and over again. I just watched what did I just rewatch? Actually, no, I was watching Cartoon Network the other day. I was watching Johnny Bravo.
Nice.
So if you have good animated movies or good cartoons that I probably have or have not seen, send them my way.
Hell yeah. So they can find you on Twitter at DJ Tony H507.
507, that's me.
Okay. And then we have you on SoundCloud here.
Boom. That one's DJ-Tony H.
DJ-Tony H.
Find all my music. I have free downloads on there. I run a podcast called The Drive-Thru that I do every 2 weeks or so. With a guest mix from either a local or someone that I've connected with the internet. So yeah, you'll find a lot of dope mixes on there from a lot of local DJs. Some of my live sets you can see. One of them right there is from my last warm-up set from Monkey Loft that I played.
Hell yeah, man.
So a lot of good stuff there.
And then let's see, we've got your IG here.
Boom. More if you want to see funny Insta stories, because I definitely love posting memes on my Insta stories because I love laughing.
Yes.
You find them on there. Couple, you'll see once we're up and running again in the world, you'll see a lot of gigs. There's my Joe Exotic.
This is great.
Joe Exotic.
This is absolutely fabulous.
My girlfriend made that. She's been doing some graphic design. She's been teaching herself some graphic design stuff. So I gave her a little project, and she created that for me to do some promo. There's the Groovy Bone release.
Here's the Groovy Bone release.
Boom.
Nice, man.
#1 today.
Woo!
Yeah, so a couple releases that came out. Yeah.
And then we have your Beatport here.
Boom. Beatport. All my music's on there. I have a release coming out. Today's Thursday, so tomorrow.
Okay.
Be Right Back. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Ode to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Right. Yeah. It's I used the sample of him saying "I'll be back."
Dude, let's listen to this.
And they got two good. I mean, so one of them is a homie. Apollo Green is a homie.
Okay.
Remix, and Skanka is another dope producer. If you haven't heard of him, look him up.
Tight.
OFDM. Those guys. Another label that's killing it too. They've had a lot of really good releases on their label. Nice.
Let's go ahead and let's listen to a little snippet of this.
Boom. I now love this track again because I hear these tracks so much.
Yeah.
I end up hating them at the end of the process. And I'm like, all right, like, track's cool.
It's interesting how you let them rest for a while and then
right.
Dope track, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait, we're gonna throw this one in the cart.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Gotta support the homies, man. Super dope. Awesome.
Yeah, working on a lot of new music. For those that may watch this and know me personally, know that, I mean, they've already seen it because it's already out. I had a release on Dirty Bird a few weeks back. but for all my friends that have known, I mean, I followed the label since they started in 2005, and like my dream when I started producing was like, I'm gonna get a track on Dirty Bird. And so this was the year. It came out at the beginning of March on their Bird feed.
Cool,
so if you're a
man.
Bird feed member,
yes,
you can get it from there. And if you're not a Bird feed member, I may or may not have a private link to the track. You can just ask me for it. Who's calling me right now?
I think that was me.
Was that you? Okay. So yeah, if you're not a Bird feed member, you can just find me through one of my social links. Maybe I'll be nice and send you the private link.
That'd be dope. All right, and then this is our show that you'll now be guest 5.
Yes.
Which I was just inspired to talk to give him 5, do the rewind. This has been super awesome, man.
Yeah, this is a great idea what you're doing now.
Thank you, man.
Great at a time like this, and just great in general, because I mean I listen to quite a few podcasts, and I mean they're all obviously audio podcasts, and they're doing this, but you can't see it, and I feel like doing this and being able to see the people that are talking just is a dope added element.
Yeah.
And all the podcasts I have seen that are video are not this. It's just, DJs DJing. So this is dope.
Sweet, man. I'm gonna, let's say bye to the official recording, and then we'll talk off the record.
Boom. Yes.
Salud. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.